Okay, I think I'm ready. Good morning and welcome back to the Voodoo Garden, people. My name is Ray. I will be your host today. Welcome back to the new Voodoo Garden. I have done a little bit of rearranging, as you can see. Certain things are gone, certain things have been added, and I've also added some, not really quite decoration, but more function than decoration to the backdrop of the Voodoo Garden. What do you think? Looks pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, and I want to explain to the people who have subscribed since I walked away from the Voodoo Garden a few months ago. I left the Voodoo Garden, and by the way, this is the Voodoo Garden. What Voodoo Garden means is indoor gardening. I've been asked by many people, what does Voodoo Garden mean? Is it something having to do with black magic or evil or devil worship or something like that? And I tell them, no, nothing quite so sinister. All Voodoo Garden means is, like the slogan says at the very end of my programs, all things are possible. And that's all it means. All things are possible. And I really do truly believe that all things are possible if you believe enough, if you try at them, and you have enough faith in yourself to at least go outside your comfort zone and try it. And that's what I mean. I don't mean any kind of weird stuff. What I mean is, for instance, if you've never grown something and you've always wanted to try, give it a try. That's the Voodoo Garden spirit, and that's why I call this my Voodoo Garden, because I've grown things in here that I've never in my life thought of growing before I started this program. So I wanted to welcome everybody that's new and welcome back everybody that's been here for a while back to the Voodoo Garden. What I'm going to do today, and I do have something special. It wouldn't be a Voodoo Garden if there wasn't something strange in it, and there is something strange. I got a little bucket of strange going on in here, a little plate of strange, and I got these. I don't know if you know what these are, and don't worry, I'm gonna give you a close-up, of course, but I've been working on these things because they grow locally. Yeah, they do. I'm gonna go through this with you because that is actually really, really fun. But what I wanna do, I have so much planned today, and I don't wanna make it a 3-hour-long episode, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off and give you some updates of all the plants that are growing here. That way we can all get back up to speed and start keeping an eye on some of these plants. Second, after the quick update, I'm gonna show you something here that I've been playing around with, and you can tell me what you think about it, okay? And all right, so let's start to your left and work our way around to the right. Sound good? All right, grab your hats and let's go. I'm going to start the tour off with the Awesome 5, and I do call them the Awesome 5 because they are amazing little plants. These were little babies off of a mother plant that I had over here on the side. Remember that big plant? Yep, I had a mother plant, and she was started from some little babies that were sent to me by a viewer. Yes, one of you sent me a few spider plant clippings, and I planted them in a large pot over here, and they grew and grew and grew and got huge, and I took cuttings off of her, and I put them in little pots up on this shelf, and they grew and grew. And the last you saw these, they were in these small 6-inch pots. Now they're in 10-inch pots, almost twice the size pot. And let me tell you something, when you're growing spider plants, when you put them in a larger pot, they get larger really, really quick. And this is what they look like. This is what happened over the summer. They're putting out runners, and this is what a runner is. And it has flowers on it. You can pollinate these and they will make seed pods, so you can actually plant these from seeds. But they also will put out little plants along them. You can take these plants, put them in soil, and you can grow a whole new plant. And this is something that I really do recommend. If you want to start out simple and have a grow room, spider plants are one of the easiest plants and the funnest and the most productive plants you can ever want to grow. So definitely give these a try. I definitely recommend these things. Right next to them, over in the corner, let's walk on over here. This is called a wandering Jew. You've probably seen this quite a few times here and also in other people's homes and in garden centers. A wandering Jew is a vine, and when you move it around, it tends to break off and fall apart, but that's for a good reason. The wandering Jew will break off pieces that will fall into the soil and continue growing. They're very easy to root. They also look like they're dying back. You know, and that's a common thing for a wandering Jew. And I think the word Jew is very appropriate for this plant because the Jewish people are a resilient people, and I think they're a fantastic people because they go through so much and they spring right back. And that's what this plant embodies, is that you can damage it, you can abuse it, and it comes back even stronger, and it will not let you trample it into the ground. Big respect for the Jewish people and a whole lot of love for this plant. It is growing huge in this corner, And I have no idea how big it's going to get or how long it's going to go, but I'm going to enjoy it for the duration. Right next to that is, what is this thing? This is passion fruit. Yeah. Well, hey, I got to remember the names to these, so you got to cut me some slack. Sometimes I do forget. I had this passion fruit growing here, and last year, remember, it grew up to the ceiling, then it grew over the ceiling, and it was on these hooks, and it was dripping this sap all over my head. Well, what I did was, I got tired of it. I ripped them all down. I cut the plant back, and it is on an episode where I have nothing but these little short, fat, stubby stems in this pot. And that's what it was. You can actually see the little stems right here. Well, anyway, over the summer, this thing decided to just do it all again. So what I did is I put up this lattice work. I put it up here, and I also put it up behind the spider plants. I did that for a reason. Partially because it looks good, but mostly because I knew this thing was going to want to grow again, and this time I'm prepared. Those tendrils, it puts out these little finger tendrils and it wraps around everything and it holds on tight. Now it's going to grow up along that and all along here, and that way I don't have to tolerate it growing along the ceiling. I have a place for it to grow, and with any luck it'll flower, and when it does, I'm definitely going to catch that because I want you to see that. All right, let's go down to the base of the passion fruit. This one, this is a beauty. This is normally called a marble queen or a marbled pothos. A pothos is similar to a philodendron, but it's not a heartleaf philodendron. People call this a heartleaf philodendron. It's not. This is called a pothos vine. Now, a pothos is a wonderful, very easy plant to grow. They will grow in high light or low light, and that's the wonderful thing about them. They come in solid green or a marbled color or yellow. They come in a few different colors. Now, the miracle about this plant, I think, is it's just fantastic. I've been growing this for decades, not this particular one, but this type of plant. The thing about it is all along the stem, you're going to see little tiny nodes, little tiny nubs. And at those junctures, while this is growing in this pot, if you put it in soil, like in another pot next to it, or if you have a really large pot that you're growing this in, and you put those in soil, they will send down roots. And as it grows and puts down more and more roots, it will get bigger and bigger and bigger. The leaves of this, now people in Florida will grow these outside and they'll grow them up a tree. And I've seen leaves on this get larger than a dinner plate, about 2 feet across. Yes, they're not going to get that big here in the Voodoo Garden, but this is a beauty, and it's grown quite a bit. I've been cutting it back, I've been trying to shape it, and this is what Marble Queen Pothos looks like. It really is a beautiful plant. And there is another beautiful plant behind here, and sometimes my plants don't get along, but, well, we do the best that we can here in the Voodoo Garden. This thing right here, remember this one? This prehistoric creature is a sago palm. And I got a seed for this. I think somebody sent me a seed, and I grew this from a seed. These plants have been around longer than anything that walks the earth. They've been they've been around, and this is what stuns me about these. Things that have such a long history. This plant has survived on this planet longer than some rocks. Think about that. They have survived everything, and they're still up and growing. It's a beautiful plant, and as it grows, I'm going to give you updates on that. Swinging right down. I don't know what this is called, and people have told me a million times, but I forget to write it down. And it really doesn't matter to me what it is. But what it is to me is it's beautiful. Look at this thing. I got this as a small plant at Walmart, and I think it was Walmart or Lowe's. And the leaves are like a work of art, aren't they? They get this dark green with a really light rib on the inside. And the nice thing about them, look at the reverse side. Whoop, sorry. It's a beautiful design, and it's a burgundy color. So it's a very good contrast, and the new leaves come out this really shiny, waxy, really vivid green. And they're very easy to grow. Let me show you the base of this. This one has been growing for quite some time. Look at that. That is one solid stem down there. And I would recommend planting these in a very, very large pot, because they will put out roots like you wouldn't believe. Look at that, right down at the soil level. I really wish I could put this in a larger pot, and I may transplant it sometime in the near future, because I want this to get as big as it possibly can. That is a beauty, isn't it? Yep. And it's fighting for room with the banana. I don't know what this is. I think it's called a Zebrina banana or blood banana. And it's called that because of the design on the leaves. This plant is the baby of the mother that was in this pot. This is not the original banana plant. I've been growing this for many, many years, and I grew it back in my former home. I got it as an itty bitty plant, a little 8-inch slip of a plant from eBay, and I planted it in a pot. It grew, it put out a baby, and then the main banana plant got too big. I cut it back, and the plant died, but the baby grew, and now the baby has a baby. So this is the grandchild. I'm really working it here with my one hand. Sorry about all this. See, we got another one coming out here. It's fighting for room with this other plant, and I wish I had a larger room, but I don't. So I'm going to have to rearrange this plant. It's doing wonderful. Banana plants will grow inside under regular fluorescent light. And I just have regular compact fluorescent bulbs here for all of these plants. No special grow bulbs, no special anything here in the Voodoo Garden. Swinging right over into the corner. I like this one. This one looks, I thought this was called a prayer plant, but I guess it's not. This one, look at the leaves. They look like somebody took a paintbrush and painted the leaves. That is amazing. And like that weird funky plant, look at the backside. Look at the color on that. That's something else, isn't it? It really is a stunning plant, and it will do well in a corner with just medium light. I don't know if it's ever going to flower, but I do know that the leaves are something else. And right next to that, do you know what this is? Okay, some folks grow these outdoors. I grow this indoors. This is a papaya. A viewer sent me some seeds. Yep, another viewer sent me some seeds for a papaya, and this is supposed to be a dwarf papaya because I held off growing papaya because I know they get huge. And somebody sent me, oh, there's a spider back there. Hey, how you doing? She keeps the bugs in line. I don't know what she's doing back there. But anyway, back to the papaya. This is a dwarf papaya. It's been growing in this pot for quite some time, and the stem is pretty thick. It's about as thick as an avocado pit down at the bottom. But what I wanted to show you is, this is really strange. Normally, those of you who grow papaya or have seen pictures of them, it has a main central stem, and then it has these long leaf stems, and then a leaf at the end, right? Nothing spectacular, but look at this. This is a leaf. This isn't a growing tip. This is a leaf, but it's kind of turned into another stem. How bizarre is that? And it's not just a one-time occurrence. This is happening right up here, a little bit closer. Look at this. That is the weirdest thing I've seen, and it only started happening a week ago. Apparently, the papaya is really enjoying it here in the Voodoo Garden. So whatever I'm doing, I'm apparently doing it right. See, I really don't know what I'm doing with the papaya plant. I don't know how to grow it. All I know is it seems to be doing good. That's good enough for me. I love this thing. I'm waiting for this to just kick off and grow. It looks like it's just about ready to start growing really fast. This is a philodendron. What type it is, I have no idea. But it puts out leaves that are reddish, and then when they get older, they turn a green color. So you get multi-colors. You got like a yellowish, a gold, then you get red, you get green. It's a really beautiful color change, and that's just naturally how the leaves go. This is one of those philodendrons that you'll see growing up really tall, and somebody will put like a piece of wood in there, and they send out those thick aerial roots that'll wrap around it and grow. I believe that's what this one is. And this one is going to be a beauty once it really starts growing here in the Voodoo Garden. I got it for a couple bucks at Walmart. They were practically giving them away. It was in the very back, and it was looking kind of damaged and kind of nasty, and I snagged it up and I got it for a steal of a deal. Also, its little cousin over here, this one was, I think, a couple dollars or $1.50, and I don't know what it is. I think it's a Janet Craig, which is some type of Dracaena. I could be wrong, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. Whatever this thing is, I took it out of its little teeny tiny pot that it came in, popped it in here, and it seems to like it here. I wonder if it's going to fruit. I don't know if it's going to flower, fruit, grow. I have no idea. All I know is it really seems to like it here, and that's good enough for me. This thing right here is some kind of a lily, a kaffir. I think that's what it's called. Boy, if I'm right, I have no idea how that information got in my head. Kaffir lily, K-I-F-I-R or K-I-F-F-I-R. Someone sent me a bulb for a kaffir lily. I planted it here and it put out blooms, and the blooms are beautiful and they smell good. Normally lilies, for me, don't have really good smell. I've never had luck. You know, I've grown daylilies and they really don't smell that great. This one has a great smell. It's put out flowers before. I cut off the flower stem and it continues growing, so hopefully it's going to be flowering again. Hopefully this winter. That would be kind of nice, wouldn't it? And this thing, another one sent to me by a viewer, and thank you everybody for sending me these plants. I really do appreciate it. The Voodoo Garden would not be the Voodoo Garden without you, okay? I got to make that clear. If it was just me, it wouldn't be nearly as fascinating as it is today. This is called agave, an agave plant, and it looks sort of like a yucca, and it almost looks like a pineapple, but this is called agave. And what's going to happen if it survives, and it has survived, it started looking half dead for a while, and then for some reason it got its mind right and started to grow again. Agave will get thick at the bottom. They'll get thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, and it'll turn into this monstrous bulb. And if they're grown outdoors, the bulb can, you know, get about maybe 1.5 feet across. And then they harvest this and they slice off the leaves, and then they make, what is it, tequila or rum, or I don't know. They make some kind of liquor out of this. I'm not going to be making any kind of liquor out of it. I'm just going to grow it for the fun of it. And the nice thing about this is it's starting to put out a little baby. Yeah, it is. It's got a little baby right down here. It happened over the summer. See? Little baby right there. Yep. And I got to tell you something. I saw more than just babies in there. And this is something that happened in all my plants. I was noticing this summer little tiny, especially over here in the papaya. In all of my plants, I was seeing corn germinating all over the place. Corn was growing out of my plants. And I couldn't figure it out. And I thought, why is corn growing out of my plants? And eventually I found out. I caught a mouse in here. And the mouse was bringing corn in because on the other side of this wall is where I keep the feed in the hallway. I keep the feed for the chickens, and there's some whole kernel corn over there. And the mouse was grabbing corn, running around the corner, coming underneath the door in the Voodoo Garden and burying it in here, storing it for the winter, and it was growing. So this mouse was growing corn in my Voodoo Garden. I thought that was a hoot, but I had to pick them, otherwise they'd take over the place. Okay, back to our quick tour. Actually, our not so quick tour. This is a peace lily, and this one I also got really cheap at Walmart. This one can grow really, really big. It hasn't in here yet, but it has put out a whole lot of new leaves, and that's good enough. But a peace lily is a very easy plant to grow. Slightly moist, let it dry out every now and then, and don't give it bright light. These things will do really well if you're growing and you don't have a whole lot of bright light. These will do good for you. And every now and then they put out a beautiful white flower. It's a nice little gift to you. Every now and then, a white flower. It shows off really well with the dark green. This is coffee. Yeah, Walmart. Once again, boy, I love Walmart because Walmart has all these plants in their garden section, and their employees don't really know how to take care of plants, so they end up half dying. So when they're half dead, they go off into the, I call it the land that time forgot when it comes to plants. They'll shove them in the corner and they'll mark them down. And this one was just a few dollars, and I got 7 plants in a little teeny tiny pot. Yes, 7 plants in a tiny pot. I took them out, and I had a program, I think, on how I separated these, and is using water. And I separated them, planted them individually, and now they look like little palm trees, don't they? Yep, this is some kind of, yeah, the kind of coffee that puts out the beans and everything. And over here, this one's called a flying dragon. It doesn't look very spectacular, but somebody sent me seeds for a flying dragon tree. And it's not the regular dragon tree like a Dracaena. This is a weird looking plant. Look up flying dragon on Google and you'll see what these things look like. Almost like a bonsai stick type of plant. Not very remarkable, but it is growing in the Voodoo Garden, and I just wanted to show you. Behind it, another coffee tree. This is one that started to split. Look at that. They will grow up for a while, then they'll put out side branches. Kind of neat, huh? The nice thing about coffee trees is they will grow in medium light. They don't need really bright light. They're not getting bright light here. That one's growing underneath the shade of the banana tree, and it's doing just fine. So a coffee tree, if you ever see them at the store and you want to grow something indoors that has beautiful shiny leaves, look at this, beautiful shiny leaves, coffee trees can work for you. Tucked away over here in the corner is that pregnant onion. I received this from a viewer as well. Pregnant onion, she sent me these little itty bitty, they look like little green balls, and I planted them in the soil, and it grew into this thing here, and there's another one growing behind it. Yep, they're called pregnant onions because what will happen is these little green balls will form on the outside of this, and then they'll just grow new plants, fall off and grow new plants. It puts out these weird, funky looking leaves, but it'll also put out a stem every now and then, and the stem will have a cluster of flowers at the very end of it. This one is not flowering at the moment. It flowered twice, and I kept cutting off the flower stems because I wanted to just grow greens for a while. But this is called a pregnant onion. Now, one plant that I thought would do better, and it's not doing bad, but I just thought it would do better. This one is called a camille dumcane, or Dieffenbachia. Now, some of the leaves are dying, but that's just the nature of the plant. Leaves will die, you pluck them out, and new leaves will grow. These things have been known to grow tens of feet tall, and people grow these by a window. They really love a bright location. This one I got as a medium small plant, but it started to die, and I couldn't figure out why. I thought, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I don't know. And then all of a sudden, you know, I gave up on it. I shoved it in the corner, like Walmart does. I shoved it in the corner over here, and I thought, you know what? If you feel like dying, fine. Far be it from me to try and force you to live in a nice environment. And then it got its mind right and started growing again. So what I'm going to do is transplant this because these do extremely well at being buried into deeper soil. Look at this. See these little nubs down here? Yep, those will turn into roots if you bury it. So I'm going to just bury this a couple feet into a larger pot and see if I can cause this to put out more roots and do a little bit better. And there's a plant called a dragon fruit, and it sounds exotic, but it's not really that exotic at all. It's more of a cactus. It's like a vining cactus. I've been growing this for so many years, and what I do is I take a piece and I shove it into soil. And you'll normally see these in garden centers. They're about this tall, they're fat, and they're in pebbles or something, and then they'll have a colorful cactus-looking flower on top of them. You know what I'm talking about? Well, that colorful red or yellow ball of cactus flower on top does not belong there. At the factories, they place them on there, and they merge the plants together. That top part you can take off, because the bottom part is the rootstock. That is what's called dragon fruit. You can buy dragon fruit, the fruit of it, at stores every now and then. But you can also grow these things. And the more you bury them, the better they grow, because they put out roots basically all along the plant. And the more roots you put down, the stronger it gets. I put this one into soil. I was growing a huge one last year. Remember that one? It was vining all over the place, having a good time. I chopped it all down, tossed it all away, but I kept a portion of it. And I've been doing this for years. And I shoved a portion of it into this pot, and it grew this little viney thing. Well, the viney thing just kind of went down, and when it touched the ground, it sent down roots. So this is not just setting on the soil. This one is attached to the soil, and it's growing right back up. They're a fun little plant to grow, and they do prefer bright, full sun. And they can grow outdoors during the summer, and they love it outdoors. Indoors, you're going to get something a little wimpy like this. And be careful when you touch these things. They can defend themselves. They have all these little itty bitty thorns all over the place. And that's one thing I really don't much care about when it comes to these. But it's been here for so long, I'm just going to keep it. Now I'm going to have to back up for this one. This has gotten way out of control, way beyond anything I can manage. This is called an arrowhead, and it's a big one. It wasn't so big a long time ago. It was a small thing in a smaller pot. I put it in a bigger pot, and it got bigger, and it grew straight up. It was doing wonderful. And then one day I came into the Voodoo Garden, and it had all fallen down. And that's what I do with this. Every now and then I do this. I push it down, and I open up the middle. And what that does is it gets light onto the inside, because these will vine. You can actually hang these up and they will vine, or put them up on a shelf and they'll vine down. But inside, this is what it looks like. Looks kind of anemic, right? Well, these are like the camille will have nubs along their stems, and you can bury these deeper, and that will put out more stems and make them even healthier and bigger. I've seen one at a greenhouse once that was in a monstrous pot. I think it was like a 20-gallon pot, and this plant got about maybe 5 feet across and about 4 feet high. It was incredible. So what they do is they kind of vine out and then grow up in the middle, and then the middle part will fall over. It'll grow up more in the middle. So it fills out from the inside out. If you grow these, watch them close. They are a spider mite magnet. And the way that you'll notice the spider mites is right in here. And if you flip them underneath, you'll see the spider mites underneath, the little webbing, the telltale webbing. I don't have any spider mites on these, knock on wood. I hope I never do, because once you got them on this, it's really almost impossible to get rid of them. So I'm hoping this one stays spider mite free. I'm going to swing to the left and throw you a splash of color. Look at this. This is called a purple passion or gynura plant. This one was a little teeny tiny one that I got. It grew up, went all over the place, and then it started to die. So I took a cutting. I took a couple cuttings and I put it in a small cup. And this is what happened over the summer. This thing started growing and vining down. It's a beauty. Look at the color on this. This is a stunning plant no matter how you look at it. It is coated in purple velvet. It's an absolute beauty. It's growing right underneath fluorescent light. It's doing just fine. They're very easy to grow, but like other plants, they are susceptible to certain things. This one is susceptible to fungus attack on the leaves. If you start noting spots on the leaves, don't water it quite so much. The moisture from it will cause a fungus to grow on the leaves. So that's just my one warning for this plant. Other than that, this thing is going to go really good. By the way, you can cut these and force them to send out side growths. Look at this. See? From every junction, a new stem will grow. So if you just cut this back, it'll grow even more out of here. And also, they are so extremely easy to take cuttings for. Once you have one of these, you can be giving little cuttings to everybody you know. And that's a fun thing. I'm going to move over to another colorful thing. This is a coleus. Most of you know what a coleus is. They're generally sold at garden centers during the summer. I've been growing this one for, I don't know, about a year or so. It grew up, started to die. I took cuttings and I put them in here. This is one of many colors. Coleus are known for their leaves, not so much for their flowers. Their leaves are absolutely beautiful. Their stems can get really healthy. They do like bright light. So if you're going to grow one of these, you're going to have to grow it outside or grow it in bright light. That's where they do their best. Okay, over to the left. What is this thing? Does anybody know what this thing is? It's not a, what is this? Oh, it's called a VoodooBelly. Yes, that's what it is. I thought I forgot what this was. This is called a VoodooBelly plant, and because it gets a round belly down here. And it's a succulent of sorts, and it puts out these leaves, and it's done this twice now. It's put out these flower clusters. It's kind of a pretty flower, isn't it? Yep, I don't know if it'll produce seeds. I've tried pollinating them and it didn't work. But yep, this is a VoodooBelly, and it's doing really nice, but it's kind of getting taken over by the banana. Well, what can you do? This is a Hawaiian Schefflera. I believe it's a Hawaiian Schefflera, but Arbicola, Schefflera, they're called the same thing. And it's got the little leaves. Some of them have big leaves. Those are the, I think, the standard Arbicola. This is the smaller one. And this one started out as a smaller plant and it bushed out. You can, on these ones, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll strip all the leaves off the stems all the way down and have long stems and then just a cluster of leaves on the top. I decided to let this one grow naturally. And oh, I also decorated the door. This was just an eyesore. I didn't like this door. This is one of the doors that goes out to the hallway. And I just decorated it with like a picture of Rascal and a couple other little knickknacks. Kind of cool. It's a nice backdrop, and my mom sent me these little chilies to hang over here because she wanted me to decorate with something of hers. So that's from Mom. And then let's move in close. Now my arms are getting tired, so pardon me if I shake a little bit because I'm reaching way over these plants. This is a Persian shield. You've seen this thing grow. you've seen it grow from a very small plant to an incredibly large plant, and then over the summer I chopped it back and it's growing again, and growing with it in little 6-inch pots. Those are onions. Yeah, somebody sent me onion bulbs, and he also sent me seeds for these onions, and from what I understand, they unearthed some onion seeds somewhere in Israel, and I think it might have been Jerusalem. And these seeds are said to be like 1,000 years old or something. And he sent me these seeds. I don't know how old they really are, but he sent them to me, and he sent me a few bulbs, a care package from Israel. I planted the bulbs, I'm growing them here, and the seeds I'm going to be growing in my garden next year. So that ought to be interesting. I'm going to be growing them outside. Then this is the mini rose. Mini rose? Those are those little roses that you can get for Valentine's Day. Remember I was showing this? It has been flowering all summer long. It is the beginning of November, well, almost the beginning of November, the end of October, and this thing has been flowering profusely all summer long. And I butchered this thing too. I do that every now and then. I butchered it all the way back, cut it back, because it was just getting so huge. And what happens if you're growing these indoors, it's really hard to give them enough light, because, you know, roses like really bright light. They like to be grown outdoors. So the stems were getting a little bit wimpy. So I practiced a little praxis method, and I pruned them back to try to strengthen up the stems. And look at the stems. They're starting to get thicker back here. And so it does work. You can grow roses inside. And look, how beautiful is that? Roses in mid-fall. It's beautiful. And this one also, by the way, was sent to me by a viewer. This is called, I think this is called Mother of 1,000 Babies. Google it. All right, and you'll see what the adult looks like. Keep an eye on these because they're doing good, and I hope they grow large, because if they do, I'm going to have thousands upon thousands of babies. It's a beautiful, really kind of a crazy plant, and it fits into the Voodoo Garden nicely. Well, that pretty much concludes the tour. What do you think? Kind of cool. Yep, and I'm going to be adding a few things here and there throughout the winter, so keep tuning into the Voodoo Garden, because it's going to be something new, something different. Always something fun coming into the Voodoo Garden, and that's what keeps people coming back, and that's what keeps me smiling. I want to show you something. These here, Mike the dishwasher, you've seen him on the Praxis channel. Mike the dishwasher brought these home from where he works at Walmart. He works in the tire department of Walmart. Well, right next to Walmart is a dollar store. It's called Dollar General. Some of you may know what it is. It's a store where everything in the store is $1. And right behind that, in this empty lot, is this huge, beautiful tree. And when we go there to Walmart during the summer, I noticed that this huge, and I can't even describe, I should have gotten a picture of it, but this huge tree was filled with clusters of flowers, and when you drive by, it smelled almost like lilacs. It smelled beautiful. And I said, you know what? I would love to grow something like that in our yard. And what happened was those flowers turn into these. Let me show you what these are. Okay, this looks relatively worthless. Just the outside. Oh, I thought there'd be seeds in here. Oh, I get it. Okay, that makes sense. Because I read up on the catalpa tree, and they said the seeds, the pods will open up and the seeds will fly on the breeze. And look at this. It just looks like shavings of wood. But apparently, these are seeds. Yeah, kind of strange. And I guess they would just fall out of the pod as the pod cracks open. Oh, this is bizarre. You know, that's the whole idea behind the Voodoo Garden. Always something different, always something new, always something strange. And it always fascinates me. Look at that. I'm surprised there's not more of these trees around Iowa. The way that it puts out so many seeds, I'm hoping it's not because the seeds aren't fertile. But wow, that's just one pod. And of course there's a lot more, but I mean, come on. How many seeds does Ray need? Look at that. Catalpa tree. Son of a gun. So that's what they look like. Well, I'm going to save these and I'm going to try and germinate them. wonder if this is like a seed or just a piece of the thing. I have no idea. And I'm going to have to research if they need to go through some kind of a stratification, which means put them in the refrigerator and keep them cold for a few months to help them to germinate. I really don't know. Well, that is really weird. Catalpa seeds. Now you know. These are called milkweed. Yeah, milkweed pods. Milkweed is known as a weed, and it grows practically everywhere. And some people are allergic to the pollen, but the thing is that it puts out this tall stalk, these green leaves, big, beautiful green leaves, and a cluster of flowers at the top. And the smell is beautiful. Oh, it's just wonderful. It makes you smile. If you've ever not smelled milkweed, if you're not allergic to it, and I don't think most people are, but sniff the flowers someday, and you will smell something that just makes you want to smile. What'll happen is the flowers attract monarch butterflies. So it's a beneficial, and people will think of some weeds as, oh, I gotta get those out of here. I'm gonna spray them with Roundup or get them off my lawn. Certain plants are food sources for certain animals of this planet, and we can't be so arrogant as to assume that everything has to be just for us. And look at this. I wanted to show you this. You open them up, and doesn't it look almost like some kind of a weird tropical fruit? Look at the seeds. These brown things are all seeds. Now when you open them up, watch. They just all of a sudden start, it looks like a pine cone, doesn't it? Now trying to get these seeds off, I found out, is almost impossible, trying to get them off the fluff. So I discovered a way to do this. Watch. Look what happens. Now normally these things will wait for a breezy day, and slowly, just like dandelions, they'll take off on the breeze. And is that beautiful or what? It is the softest, silkiest feeling when you take these out. And yes, they are all over the place. Yes, it's a total crazy mess. It's a crazy mess, I tell you. Normally I would do this outside, but we're in the Voodoo Garden. Presto changeo! And we just move them around. They don't stay on fire. That's the thing. I got this little cloud of smoke in here. And that's why I said, do this outside. And then, what I do is I just beat them like this, and look. The seeds are down here. And they're not burnt. It was such a quick fire that most of this is just fluff and a couple seeds. Now, the seeds are unhurt, and I can plant these. Kind of cool. It was just a different thing, an idea, because when I was a kid, I lit a dandelion on fire, because I had this fascination with fire when I was a kid. And I lit a dandelion on fire, and it just came to me. I thought, you know what? That is probably the quickest way I can get the fluff off of these seeds. Now I'm going to take these seeds and I'm going to keep them in the fridge over the winter, and then I'm going to plant them all over my property, around the perimeter of my property, and hopefully any passing monarchs will see these and they're going to enjoy the flowers and tell their monarch friends, and I'll have more and more monarchs passing through here on their migration. Kind of a neat little thing from the Voodoo Garden, and it was a fun little idea. And plus, you know, if you like fire, how can you not? Well, that was fascinating. Ray plays with fire in the Voodoo Garden. Always something new. Oh, and for those of you who are wondering what this thing was laying down on the ground, I haven't figured out where I want to put this thing, but this giant questionable looking item, can you guess what this one is? Those of you who have tuned in for a long time, you know exactly what this is. But I'll tell the new people, this here is not just a decoration. No, this is a squash. Yes, this is a seed pod. This is what's called cucuzza. Cucuzza is an Italian, I think it's Italian. It's an Italian squash, basically like a zucchini. And it's grown from a squash plant. Yeah. And they get longer than this too. I think the record is something like 10, 15 feet long. Yeah. So this is a lot of food, folks. This is a lot of food from one seed. A viewer grew this, and he dried it out. So it's dry and it's hollow, and I removed the seeds many years ago. And I always wanted to grow this, but I just didn't have the room to grow it. But I keep the old pod because I think it's fascinating. It's something different, something bizarre, something strange, and where else would it go except for in the Voodoo Garden? But just in case you were wondering what this thing was, no, it's not a billy club, no, it's not a baseball. That, my friends, is a kukuza. Oh, and I didn't want to leave anybody out because every time I do a grand tour, I leave somebody out. This one here, this little girl, is called Belladonna, and she's also known as Deadly Nightshade. I've grown this in the Voodoo Garden many times, and she's starting to flower. I just pruned her back. She was a rather large plant, right around here, back before I took my vacation. Now I cut it all the way back to the ground and transplanted it into a smaller pot because I really didn't need such a large plant. This is Belladonna. And yes, she can be very, very dangerous, so you want to be very, very careful if you're going to be growing her. She puts out the most beautiful flowers and little tiny purple pods. And no, you don't want to eat those things, not if you want to remain alive. And I do want you to stay alive, because if you're dead, you're not going to do anybody any good. Stay alive. Don't eat belladonna. Thank you, everybody, by the way, for joining me for the kickoff episode of the Voodoo Garden. I know it's a little strange, but then again, strange is fun, and all of my friends have crooked tails, and I like it that way. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions whatsoever, please post them in the comment section below. And unlike Praxis over on the Praxis channel, I will not answer your questions in the comment section. I will answer them on the next episode. So if you have any questions whatsoever or any kind of comments, post them in the comment section below, and your question may get answered in the next episode. Until next week, actually not next week, 2 weeks from now. The Voodoo Garden episodes are going to be every 2 weeks. It gives me a chance to recharge and also to do things outside. So in 2 weeks, I will be back, and we will be answering questions and enjoying new adventures in the Voodoo Garden. But until then, this is Ray. I'm out of here. Okay. Firebug Ray. Firebug Ray.